Super Mario World a necessity for gracious living? Few video games in history have seen release over the years that present the same level of charm, quality and polish as this one, serving as a quintessential video game that should be part of any Super Nintendo collection. Those who were gaming on the Sega platforms during the early 90s would look on in envy at Super Nintendo owners who had possession of this now classic game. But what if I told you that a Super Mario World title had also been developed and published to run on 16-bit Sega hardware of the era as well? Genesis, Megadrive, whatever you call it, was this another example of Sega proving Genesis does what Nintendo do? Let's find out. I am Lady Decade and this is the story of the illegal Sega version of Super Mario World. Ah yes, Super Mario World, the video game that's brought Super Mario from the realm of 8-bit platforming into the world of 16-bit. This game provided series producer Shigeru Miyamoto with the opportunity to create video games without the restrictions that weighed down on him when producing titles for older hardware in the past. Finally, a huge number of colours could be implemented, sprites could be made more detailed, and even that dinosaur companion, whom he'd wanted Mario to ride since the first Super Mario Bros. Game, could actually be made a reality. Further to this, the game's composer Koji Kondo would be overjoyed with gaining the ability to compose music using 8 different sounds simultaneously. We had reached a new era in Nintendo entertainment, Super Nintendo Entertainment if you will, and the expansive game with the best Mario graphics yet offered up a huge world of innovative levels to explore which were chocked to the brim with secret exits to find. This helped make Super Mario World become arguably the most replayable entry in the series yet, and in turn the envy of Sega Megadrive owners the world over. I guess they would all just have to make do with Edgy the Hedgy. Well, for now at least anyway, as through the heat of the console wars, Sega fans had Sonic, while Nintendo fans had Mario. However, fast forward to 1997, and all of this would change forever as Mega Drive owners would, at last, be able to welcome Nintendo's fat ugly Italian plumber into their homes. If you are familiar with my work on this channel or gaming history in general, then you will likely be aware that in the developing world, clones of the Mega Drive and other 8-bit and 16-bit consoles were becoming ever more popular, as gamers in the developed nations moved on to more powerful hardware. This would lead to multiple companies across both the countries of China and Taiwan, creating a large number of video games for the growing grey market. Popular video games would regularly have their assets harvested so that they could be reused to make unlicensed conversions of titles to allow them to be played on other hardware. In terms of Super Mario World, for example, in the past on here we have already looked at the Taiwanese Hummer Team's port of Super Mario World for the 8-bit NES. This game obviously allowed owners of Famiclone systems to play a crude version of the Super Nintendo classic without the need for more expensive hardware. After all, who needs a Super Nintendo when you can have a Pegasus or an Ending Man Terminator instead? As for the Mega Drive Genesis conversion of Super Mario World, which we are talking about today, let's see what sort of Super Mario World experience they would present for the Sega side of things.
It's me, Mario!
Remember what I mentioned earlier about these sorts of game developers pinching assets from all over the place? Then what better showpiece for that than this game's introduction? We get the spinning coin from Mario All-Stars, the "It's-a me, Mario" voice clip from Mario 64, and then we get the Mario All-Stars title screen with the Super Mario World logo at the top, with a 64 crudely slapped in the corner. Pair all of this up with a dodgy Mega Drive recreation of Koji Kondo's Mario World theme. This serves up as the most cliché bootleg video game introduction that we could have possibly received. I love how the number 64 is just shamelessly added for no other reason other than to try and associate this game more closely with Mario 64, the newest Mario game that was available on the market at the time of this oddity's original release. We soon get a message flash up on the screen briefly explaining the plot, like in the Super Nintendo source material, with the screen displaying the graphics at least are very accurate to the original. Rather than go into the overworld map in this one, players are from here thrust straight into stage 1, which once again I can report to you is surprisingly accurate looking in replicating the Super Nintendo game. So, who exactly was behind this madness? Well, no one knows for sure, but the key suspect online appears to be GameTech, a game developer and publisher based out of Taichung City. First established back in 1989, they would go on to make Famicom, Super Famicom, Game Boy and even Super Akan games, the bizarre, fully licensed game console that was produced in Taiwan. Why is GameTech often suspected to be the culprit behind this game, you may ask? Well, the company was known to be the Megadrive's most notable Taiwanese development house, and they were known to take out tons of contract work for other companies, which would frequently be uncredited. As for Super Mario World 64, which popped up around 1997, what makes this effort particularly amusing is that it has only been available to play online since 2012, as the cheeky lads from Taiwan behind this one had the audacity to add copy protection that would make the game's ROM impossible to dump using traditional techniques. I guess out-pirating a pirate is no easy feat. Yarr! Still, 10 years ago, some clever chaps managed to work out how to crack the ROM, introducing the title to a much wider audience. However, was the ability to play this game a welcome one? Those who would actually try this one would instantly note that while this game looks a lot like Super Mario World when you actually have a go, the controls make the title feel like an entirely different video game completely. This is because while graphical assets were successfully pinched and ported from the Super Nintendo game, the physics and mechanics of the game were not. For example, holding down A may allow Mario to run, but the running animations take a lot longer to kick in this one, throwing seasoned Super Mario World players off completely. This causes issues when jumping, as it makes timing very off, and when paired with the game's stiff controls in general, the fact that this game is a crude bootleg becomes very evident very quickly. But it's still Mario World on the Megadrive, so that's something, right? Well, it's Mario World, where instead of being given a huge game to explore with 96 exits to find, you are instead just given 6 of the game's stages. Players are presented with recreations of a couple of classic stages, including even a boss battle with Iggy Koopa. However, in the second half of this short game, it seems that the developers behind this one decided to get a bit creative later on and design a couple of stages from scratch. Well, from scratch if you count using all of Nintendo's assets to do so. As amusing as all of this is, it is not until the final boss of the game that things go truly off the rails. So before we talk about this any further, I may as well just show you what I mean, as words will only do this ridiculous fight so much justice. As you can see, this big bouncy bastard is certainly not an enemy from any Mario game that I'm familiar with. The giant, sentient cue ball bounds all around the stage, shooting bullet bills from his mouth, resulting in a boss battle that may have you scratching your head if you are a fan of classic Mario games. I guess this boss wasn't in any official game, because he must have been blackballed. Come on, the joke wasn't that bad, was it? Anyway, defeating this boss can be perplexing, since it's only vulnerable to damage for a very split second at a time. And even if one is successful in getting a hit in, the process has to be repeated 10 straight times. I mean, that's a lot of hits. I guess if people weren't able to beat the game, they must have felt Snookered. Whoa! I honestly try my absolute hardest to bring you the funniest jokes for this channel, so it isn't my fault if you fail to appreciate some solid puns, or even facts and actual reality. Whether you are a massive fan of dad's humour or not though, perhaps nothing tops the hilarity that ensues if one can beat this game's final boss. So, let's take a look. Yep, that amazing thing you just witnessed happens in Super Mario World 64 for the Sega Megadrive. Perhaps simply the greatest ending to any video game that has ever been made. I mean, seriously, could anyone have possibly come up with anything better than this? What could possibly be better than a picture of Mario, Luigi and Princess Peach while the theme from Jeopardy plays? How simply epic. So yeah, I guess that is Super Mario World for the Mega Drive in a nutshell. Help! I'm in a nutshell! How do I get out of this nutshell?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It's basically the game we all know and love, but just for the Mega Drive and with only a few levels. The physics are completely wrong, with stages that aren't even in the original, and a weird final boss fight, and the theme from Jeopardy. Let's be fair, this game is a far cry from what can be experienced on the Super Nintendo. However, it is highly interesting to see a game with exactly the same graphical assets running on Sega hardware instead. As far as gaming curiosities go at least, this is one of the more interesting ones out there, in my opinion. So I am Lady Decade, and that was the story of the illegal version of Super Mario World for the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis, whichever one you like best. Well, if you enjoyed this video, then like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and all that good stuff that everybody asks you to do at the end of their videos. And at the end of my videos, I like to answer questions from my patrons. So today's question is from Jay O'Malley, and they ask, what games do you anticipate should be on the Nintendo Switch Online N64 library? And there's only really one that comes to mind straight away, which for me is a really obvious one, but GoldenEye. So I reckon that probably it's not there due to licensing issues. I would think probably the James Bond 007 license might be difficult, and maybe the fact that it's a rare game. Although I do believe that Banjo-Kazooie might be there already. I don't know, but I just feel like GoldenEye is sort of the quintessential game on the N64, the one that most people remember playing when they were younger. So that's what my selection would be. So if you enjoyed that and you would like to have your question answered at the end of one of my videos, then please consider backing my little channel over on Patreon. Thank you very much for sticking around until this point of the video. See you next time.